Yes, I'll be fine. Everything's all right. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. Daniel Sprong cleared waivers. I want to thank all the well-wishers. I want to thank all the notes, all the DMs, all the messages on social media and otherwise. In this very sensitive time for your humble host, I really appreciate it. Zach, there will be no chanting today. There will be no linking with the universe today. I kind of thought this might happen. I mentioned it this morning with Johnny Lazarus on the Morning Cup of Hockey. That's I didn't think he was going to get claimed, and Daniel Sprong did not get claimed today by anybody. Okay. Welcome to the program. Welcome to Thursday. And, I was supposed to have Colby Cohen on the program today. We try to, with our Thursday shows, try to have a guest from the Nation Network / Daily Faceoff each and every week. Was supposed to be Colby, but then he's come down with something horrible, and horrible enough that he couldn't make his own show this morning. More on that coming up in a couple of moments. In the meantime, Zach, I want to ask you about one person who used to play in an organization where you played hockey. And that person is Connor McDavid. When you played at YSC, before he went to the Marlies in the GTHL, when you played at YSC, that's York Simcoe Express, in Newmarket, it's a little bit north of the city of Toronto for the uninitiated. How much did people talk about Connor McDavid? How much conversation was there about McDavid?
A lot. He's a year older than me, so he was playing a year up, and then I think being called up 2 years up at that point in time. His team was practicing and playing before us each night, so we saw and heard a lot of Connor McDavid.
So you watched McDavid play a ton then, I'm guessing?
Yeah, pretty decent amount, yeah.
Okay. And did you know right away, this guy is special, this guy's different, this guy's gonna go play? Because even at a tender age, everyone knew because we've seen guys float through before and it never worked out, but McDavid was just different at that point, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching him. I want to tell you a story about Connor McDavid, but I remember watching him when he played with the Marlies of the GTHL. And as a team with Sam Bennett was on that team, Jaden Lindo, Jeremiah Addison, Josh Hosang, Roland McEwen would have been on that team. It was a stacked team, really, really good team. A lot of players that ended up playing pro hockey, a lot of guys that got drafted ended up playing on that team. And I can recall at that time getting a phone call from Jeff Jackson, who was then an agent running his own company called Next Level Sports. Okay? And his main clients were Sam Gagner, Ben Harper, if you remember that name, big, tough, sometimes forward, sometimes a defenseman. Connor Brown, who would have already been drafted by the Maple Leafs but wasn't signed. So I think those were his main three. And I remember Jeff calling me and saying, "Get in your car. I want you to see the future of hockey." And I'm like, "Oh, geez, who are you dragging me?" He goes, "This guy I'm trying to recruit, Connor McDavid, this guy I'm trying to recruit." I'm like, "Okay." So I go and I meet him. I think I met him. Go and meet him at the Hershey Center. It might have been during OHL Cup. Now that I think about it, and I go to watch McDavid, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm working with I'm talking to his dad Brian all the time, trying to make it work, trying to get him on board. This guy's going to be an absolute star." And I remember watching McDavid, and everybody else is playing like they're 15 years old, and highly skilled. Josh Hosang is deking out the entire team and then circling back in the neutral zone just so he could do it again before scoring. Everybody was doing that because they were just so good and they were in love with all of their skill. But Connor McDavid, as a 14-year-old, because he was playing a year up, Connor McDavid was playing like a professional. He looked like a professional hockey player. There was no minor/youth hockey in him at all. The reason I bring this up, one, Edmonton's playing Pittsburgh tonight, and tomorrow in Erie, the Erie Otters are retiring his number 97. So I can remember. And I would talk to Jeff Jackson every single day. Now, of course, the top dog at the Edmonton Oilers, CEO of the team. Interesting how things all work out. So he's trying to recruit Connor McDavid, and I get a phone call from Jax one day, and he says, "I'm out." I said, "What do you mean you're out?" He goes, "I'm out on Connor McDavid." he sounds like, oh, so downtrodden, put in so much work. I go, what happened? He says, he had the Bobby Orr breakfast. And I'm like, what, the Bobby Orr breakfast? What's the Bobby Orr breakfast? And so the Bobby Orr breakfast, I don't think Bobby Orr did this for all of the clients he was trying to recruit. Maybe just the special ones. I don't know. But the Bobby Orr breakfast would work like this. So imagine trying to recruit against this for a second, Zach. Okay. So what Bobby Orr would do is, when he's trying to recruit a kid, he'd say, look, I'm going to be in the area. Do you mind if I just, show up and have a chat with the family, meet the kid, blah, 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 blah. And so sure enough, Bobby Orr shows up and it's, around the kitchen table and the memorabilia comes out and Bobby's signing everything. And he's just like super charming. This is Bobby Orr, right? Bobby Orr's sitting in my kitchen. What is this crazy life is this? He's talking about my kid. And then the conversation turns, from like memories of Bobby Orr playing with the Bruins and Stanley Cups and all these types of things. And from there, it turns into, now, let me tell you what Orr Group can do for your son. And how are you going to look at Bobby Orr in the eyes sitting across from you, your family, and your kid?
At that point, he's like waving in front.
No. How are you going to say no to Bobby? It's called the Bobby Orr breakfast. It was sort of legendary in agent circles. And Connor McDavid and his family, Brian and Kelly, ended up signing with Bobby Orr Group. But interesting. So Jeff Jackson, again, as I mentioned, had his own business as representing players. And at that point, Darren Ferris was leaving Bobby Orr Group, and Ferris handled all the kids in Ontario. So that would have been Connor McDavid and Aaron Ekblad would have been the big two. Ekblad would have been playing with the Barrie Colts. And Bobby Orr, because Ricky Curran, who would have been an agent with Bobby Orr Group, Rick Curran, who used to represent Jeff Jackson when he played in the OHL and then the NHL, asked him if he'd like to come in and join Bobby Orr Group. And amongst the people that he would represent would be Connor McDavid. So he goes from losing out because of the Bobby Orr breakfast to getting Connor McDavid, and now, of course, as the CEO of the Edmonton Oilers, he runs the entire operation. A long-winded way of saying that Connor McDavid is facing off against Sidney Crosby. Oh, by the way, when he was there's a really good piece in The Athletic, Josh Yohe, talking about the first time he went to see Connor McDavid, took Paul Steigerwald along with him, Dan Bilesma as well. It was a couple of games. One of them were against the London Knights, and Harrington and Maud Ellett, 15-year-old Connor McDavid, dance him. It's a really, really interesting story. There is a picture that's floating around the internet. I'm going to try to see if I can find it afterwards. When Connor was 15 years old, him and Hayden Hodgson and I think Stephen Harper went to Pittsburgh and met both Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux. Have you seen this picture of a 15-year-old Connor McDavid? The picture is out there somewhere of Connor McDavid standing next to Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux. Yeah, I know what you're doing, Zach. You're good producer instincts. You're like, okay, my host is saying, go look for this dum-dum. And well done. So that's floating around there somehow. Anyway, just starting the show off today with a little bit of Connor McDavid talk. Looking forward to tonight's McDavid versus Crosby. Did you already find it?
Yeah, I've got it.
You have that look. You have the look in your face. You can try to get it up. Okay, before you get it up on the air, let's get to our daily outlines of the show today. We got a big one planned for you today, as we always do. Daily outline presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Oh, look at that #1 topic. I hope Colby and Laz are watching, although I think Laz is on his way to Denver. Maybe he's already there. Best morning cup of hockey ever. Well, Zach, I don't know if that's just because Vic says so. That's their producer, by the way. Okay, so we'll get to that a little bit later on as well. The Washington Capitals and Pierre-Luc Dubois. Did it not just seem like yesterday we were talking about, and I was throwing in my blog about how, Spencer Carberry has gotten through to Pierre-Luc Dubois, and this is the Pierre-Luc Dubois that Columbus wished it had, and Winnipeg wished it had, and the Los Angeles Kings wished it had. That Pierre-Luc Dubois is very much alive and well in Washington this year, and last night was exhibit A, B, and C. Third topic, I have no idea what this one is all about. Zach says this is going to be a surprise. Sad day, bad day?
You kind of ruined it. It's Sprong cleared waivers.
Is that it?
I wasn't sure. I didn't know you were going to lead the show with it.
Well, what did you think I was going to lead with? You've known me for long enough. I take the low-hanging fruit. It's still nutritious. Okay, so sad day, bad day. Sprong clears waivers. We'll see what happens now. And also on the program today, sad day, bad day. That's good. The ruthless Gary Lawless. Now, I use ruthless around Gary. He's a Vegas Golden Knights insider. There's someone in Vegas who really hates it when I say that Vegas is ruthless, even though, as I've told people in Vegas before, I mean it as a compliment. This team is singularly focused on winning a Stanley Cup, and it doesn't matter what they break or who they offend along the way. This is the ruthless pursuit of the Stanley Cup. So I'm just going to start calling Gary Lawless ruthless, and I will do that in about 5 or 10 minutes here when he joins us, and we'll talk plenty about the Vegas Golden Knights. You know, there are just some teams that you look at throughout the year and you say, okay, trade deadline is not too far away. You'll wonder what this team is going to try to load up on, and you look at Vegas and you say, like, where are the holes? What do you need? And they don't really need anything. I mean, the answer is always depth defenseman. Everybody looks for depth defenseman. But it's a murderer's row on the back end for the Vegas Golden Knights, and up front, they got great goaltending and they're well coached. So we'll talk to Gary about the Vegas Golden Knights, and we'll talk to Erin Ambrose about a few things. One, playing in front of 19,000 yesterday at Rogers Arena, home of the Vancouver Canucks and home of an outstanding game between the Montreal Victoire and the Toronto Sceptres. Now, this is all parts of the TakeOver Tour, and we saw a game in Seattle. We'll get to that in a couple of seconds. Montreal, Boston, and then there's another TakeOver Tour game in Denver at Ball Arena coming up on Sunday when Montreal faces off against Minnesota. So we'll talk to Erin about these games as well, and in that process, do you have the Marie-Philippe Poulin? Oh, you found it. Okay, you got it. So that is good job, man. Okay, you know what? That's awesome. Because there are people in Edmonton that were looking for this picture a while ago. I mean, it took you all of 2 seconds to find it. So that is a 15-year-old Connor McDavid with Sidney Crosby. Can you pop that up again real quick? Because I love these sort of, generation pictures from Mario to Sid to Connor. I mean, we've seen so many of, that famous Gordie Howe picture where he's got the hockey stick around like a 10-year-old Wayne Gretzky's neck, which is just a beautiful piece of hockey history. I think that one belongs right there alongside it, don't you? When you look at some of the greatest players, like honestly, we'll see what happens by the end of Connor McDavid's career. I know we always talk about, Mount Rushmore, et cetera, and where everybody belongs and who's going to be there and who's not. But you're looking at 3 of them right there, all in the same picture. I think that's a glorious shot. And this young 15, good. And he's got his Erie Otters jacket on. That's awesome.
I love the early Connor photos too. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of him, but you can see how uncomfortable he is in the pictures. Even in that one, it's Sid and Mario, and he's kind of like, now he's obviously much more opened up to it. He's showing a lot more personality, which I think is great for him, great for the game as well, because if your stars are going to speak and have these kinds of moments, it's great. But looking back on some of those pictures is also so funny because it's like, hey, here he is, this superstar with other superstars, but guess what? He's a little kid. Yeah. Of course he's uncomfortable.
He looks like he's 11. But you know what I think part of that is too, like, don't forget, all the way up, I mean, you were there at York Simcoe for him, as we mentioned off the top of the show. Connor McDavid always played up. So he was never playing amongst his peer group. So as much as his skills and how he played hockey allowed him to play up, he still wasn't at that sort of maturity level. So maybe there is a predisposition to be a little bit more shy, because even though you're dominating an older group, you're still playing against and with older players who have had more life experience, even though we're talking about, 15-year-olds, for example. So maybe that's it. But you're right. Like, he's come much more out of his much more out of his shell. But I just wonder, like, because you always have that debate, like, should you stay in your peer group or should you play up if you have the example? Like, I think there was some example, like, Robert Thomas pretty well. Like, did he not play, like, for a while there, wasn't Robert Thomas playing 2 years up?
No, I look back, I don't think so.
He never played 2 years up?
I'm pretty sure he just played the year with us and then went back to his own age group after the fact. Yeah. Yeah,
he wasn't good. He couldn't play 2 years up. Yager used to play 3 years up. You know that story, right, from the draft? Brian Burke interviewing Jaromir Jagr. You ever captained a team? No. Oh, that's a red. Oh, you never hear this one? We'll get Brian to tell it on Friday. I'll give you the nickel and dime. So before the 91 draft, Berkey's interviewing Yager, and they're all around the table, and someone says, like, how many teams have you captained? And Yager says, none. And so everyone on the table is, oh, red flag, bad in the room, bad personality, what is it? He can't captain the team, no responsibility, all that. Yager paused and goes, because I always played 3 years up. And everyone around the room is like, okay, maybe we should just calm down about the captaincy thing. Yager's still playing and scored a goal, by the way. Did you see that one? Snapped it in top of the circles.
Yeah, I think he took a stick to the teeth too. Lost a bunch of them the other day.
He doesn't care. Just you think of hockey lifers, and I know part of it is trying to keep Kladno alive. Like I get it, but still get the sense that this guy, like, you don't have to drag him off the ice. Okay, let's get to our first guest. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to talk to Erin Ambrose. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to make this moniker stick. I don't know if it's going to, Zach, but I'm going to try. Please welcome Vegas Golden Knights insider, the ruthless Gary Lawless. How are you, Ruthless?
Amazing how you can twist. You are part of the two greatest mischaracterizations in the history of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay.
You were interviewing Brian Burke on one of your old shows, and Berkey said no one wants to go to Vegas anymore, or something. I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
That was completely false. They traded Nate Schmidt so they'd have space to sign Alex Pietrangelo, and players, it's well documented and easily proven, players love to come to Vegas because they get a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and there's palm trees here. And the other thing, another one of
a shot at Buffalo. Hang on. Was that a shot at Buffalo right there?
No.
Ruthless Gary Lawless.
This is a bad day to make fire jokes. I was going to say something about Cheektowaga or Tonawanda, but I won't say it.
Oh, or Irv Weinstein. Here we go. Channel 4. I know where you're going. I know where you're going. I know.
Yeah. Yes. And then the other one was this bit about Ruthless. You referred to some of the decisions made by the Golden Knights.
Hold on. Don't mischaracterize.
As being ruthless. And you didn't give this great explanation
wrong.
of saying how it's a positive. Now you've decided,
wrong.
I say that, so tell me how you said it.
I said this is the Vegas Golden Knights and the ruthless pursuit of the Stanley Cup. Vegas.
I don't recall it being said that way.
Back at my old shop, they used that audio all over the place en route to when you guys danced all over the Panthers.
In my therapy sessions, they tell me it's how I perceive it, not how you said it. So,
like, honestly, I've said this I know, like, there's one person that really doesn't like it when I say that. I get it, but I do.
It's me. I'm the person that doesn't like it.
Okay, well, that's why you're gonna take the moniker of ruthless Gary Lawless. Well, here becomes the question. I was mentioning this off the top before you joined. Right now, the Vegas Golden Knights are a freight train. Like, it's not even this team is a wagon. This team is a freight train. Even in a game like a couple of nights ago against the San Jose Sharks, like, that score is kind. This is a team that when they want to turn it on, turns it on, and even when they're going at half speed, they're still dusting teams. When you look at what's on the horizon and the competition, by the way, that division is awesome too. Edmonton, Los Angeles, like, it's a great division, and Vegas has really distinguished themselves amongst the greats. When you look at trade deadline approaching, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, so where's there a hole? Like, what does Vegas need to do? If anything, it's just kind of, bubble wrap your hockey players. Make sure nobody gets hurt.
You can't do that. That's the issue. And in Kelly McCrimmon's fair-minded pursuit of a Stanley Cup, he's
that's good.
It's history, but not prophecy. Go back to 22-23, and he added Barbashev, he added Bluger, and he added Jonathan Quick. Quick was a necessity because they used 5 goalies that year, and at one point in time, they were Hill, Thompson, and Brossoit were. They were all going down at one point in time. They were using Yuri Patera. They just couldn't have Yuri Patera playing in those critical games down the stretch. So they went and got Jonathan Quick, and he won some big games for them. He was important, and then he turned out to be really important in the run to the Stanley Cup. in the dressing room and how he dealt with the guys that weren't in the lineup every night. He had like a little club. If you were one of the guys that weren't dressing, he took you out for dinner. I'm sure they had a few Guinnesses along the way, and then he made practice really fun. He was like an extra coach, and he put that third Stanley Cup ring on his what finger, but he was really important in achieving it. So that's history, not prophecy, but that's sort of what I would look for him for Kelly to do. They have 10 defensemen. They've got 9 defensemen. They've got the 8 guys that are on the roster right now, and the extras are Ben Hutton and Caden Korzak, and they're in the top 6 and 20 of 32 NHL teams. And then they've got Robert Haig in Henderson, so they can go 9 deep, NHL quality defensemen. So I don't think that's an area. Their goaltending, both Samsonov and Hill are on tears right now. And they have Sikora in sorry, not Sikora. It'll come to me in a second.
Akira Schmid.
Schmid in Henderson. So I think they're pretty good there. So I think probably depth at the forward spot.
I want to ask you about one play this week specifically. I'm curious because, listen, you've seen this countless times, but this was a big moment this week, for more so for Macklin Celebrini than for anyone else. It's in the final moments of that San Jose Vegas game. Zach has the visuals here. This is Macklin Celebrini with the puck in his own zone. And no one's ever accused Mark Stone of being Pavel Bure. He's not the most fleet of foot, but he is one of the most dangerous players to try to challenge one-on-one. I love this. So the empty net gets missed. And the puck is going to come to Macklin Celebrini, who's going up ice, and Mark Stone with the simple strip leading to the empty net goal. That is, first of all, a lesson for Macklin Celebrini in what is going to become, for any rookie, a season full of lessons. And the first lesson here is be careful of trying to go one-on-one with Mark Stone in open ice. What went through your mind when you saw that play by Stone?
Well, he did a similar play in the first period. Him and his brother-in-law, Cody Ceci, were at the offensive blue line, and the puck came up right at the pair of them, and Mark found a way to tip the puck past Ceci, go around him, and then go in on a breakaway and beat Georgiev for the first goal of the game. Mark Stone has the best stick in the NHL in terms of stealing the puck takeaways from the opposition. It's incredible. And actually, the big debate in the dressing room this morning, I don't know if you saw Eichel's pass to Olofsson on the power play. Eichel went behind the net, backhand sauce. It's like waist level, drops flat, goes through traffic, through the crease, drops flat, one-timer from Olofsson into the net. And we asked Bruce Cassidy about that pass after the game, and he's like, well, it wasn't even the best pass in the game. Stone's pass. Stone took a pass, stopped the shot. Eichel, he saw Eichel out of the peripheral, breaking out of the zone. Then no look, one-time backhander to spring Eichel on a breakaway. And so that was the debate this morning. Which was the better pass, Stone to Eichel or Eichel to Olofsson? And Hurdle, who is, very even-tempered, he got exercised about it. He's like, not even a debate. The Stone pass. He goes, and I'm like, really? He goes, well, how many times have you seen Jack do that? And Jack does do stuff like that quite often. He said no one does what Stone did. It's impossible to make that play unless you're Mark Stone, and that's why he's on Team Canada. A pretty important player right now.
He's remarkable to me. I always love players that sort of defy what we think the NHL is. Right now, we just think of the NHL as fly zone, speed, up. And then here's Mark Stone saying, I'm just smarter than you, and I got a great stick and great body positioning, and I'm just like at the end of it, just a really highly intelligent hockey player. And by the way, you're giving everybody in Buffalo PTSD when you bring up Eichel and Olofsson together on the power play. Like, can you just leave? But you've already referenced palm trees, and now you're bringing up Olofsson and Eichel together. What do you, Gary Lawless, have against Buffalo and the Sabres, sir?
I love Buffalo. And actually, Zach and I were talking earlier this morning when we were setting this up, and we started talking about lacrosse, obviously.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite posters of all time, my good friend Paul Day was playing lacrosse for the Buffalo Bandits, and Rob Ray was playing for the Sabres, and they had him at a Tops doing a signing.
Oh, no way.
They had this great Rob Ray poster, something to do with the Sabres. And they had Paul Day, who was a police officer. And the poster said, "Cop by day, bandit by night."
That's a great poster.
Yeah, that's a great poster. Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me get on the Jack Eichel page here. All of a sudden, we're talking about. Listen, like I think that it's a crime that Mark Stone hasn't collected up a Selke Trophy here. We all know the bias against wingers, but are we all of a sudden now starting to sneak, dare I say, Jack Eichel into one of the best two-way players in the NHL type conversation?
Bruce talks about it all the time, and he's like, the voters in the East need to pay more attention, stay up later and pay more attention to Jack. And, I would tell you this, of the guys that are leading the league in scoring, I think really only Marner and Eichel are regular PK guys. And Eichel is the first over the boards for Vegas. And Vegas doesn't have to kill very many penalties. They're the least penalized team in the NHL. But he's fantastic at it. And, the Golden Knights this year, they have held teams to 2 goals or less on how many occasions? 21 times. They're 20-0-1 in those almost half of their games. They're the quintessential 3-2 team. They've got more 3-goal games than any other team in the NHL, 30, and they're 27-3-2 in those games, and then 2 or less 20-0-1. So that if they stick to their formula and if the score is 3-2, they win. But Eichel he's decided he can really impact the game. And Kelly McCrimmon says this about him: he's all about winning. So I think Eichel many nights determines, what do I have to do tonight for us to win? And that's how he approaches it. If it's, I got to go 2-1, okay, I'll make that happen. I've got to make sure we score 1 or 2, and then I got to make sure they don't get any goals. He has shut down some big names on occasions this year, and it's really interesting when the team's on the road. The opposition is matching to stay away from him all the time. He's just he controls the puck. He's a possession merchant for sure. But if Vegas loses the puck, just watch him backtrack. He uses that speed, that long stick, and he's so big and powerful. He doesn't get credit for that. He knocks people off pucks all the time. To me, he is most definitely right there with 16 with Barkov in Florida has the best two-way centers in the National Hockey League, and William Karlsson is right behind them.
Yeah, as soon as Bergeron retired, the field just opened up. Throw Nico Hischier into that conversation, as I always do for the New Jersey Devils. In boxing, they always say styles make fights, and the same thing is true in hockey. And it's interesting when I look at some of the best games that I've seen over the last 5 years. It's Team X and Vegas. Minnesota, Vegas styles mix great. They make awesome games. I can say the same thing about Colorado and Vegas. I can say the same thing about Dallas and Vegas. From your point of view, just not who Vegas can dominate, but just which of all the teams that Vegas plays makes for the most enjoyable game? For a couple of years there, it was
Edmonton.
Money in the Bank that Vegas, Minnesota was going to be great. You go out of your way. Edmonton.
There's so much goes into the soup in
Yeah.
that one. It's, Edmonton is the city of champions, and there still is, and I say this in a complimentary way, there still is a little bit of Oilers arrogance in their fan base. They're not entitled. They're not Vancouver. They're not entitled, but they have some swagger. They believe they're the Oilers. Their coaches, the people there always say, we have the best player in the world. I made the mistake of saying to Woodcroft a couple of years ago, you have the best offensive player in the world. He cut me off and said, you say the best offensive player in the world. I say the best player in the world. Well, it depends on what you value, right? And obviously McDavid is the best player in the world when you look at things offensively, but there are some other guys that, and and we're totally discounting anyone who plays defense or goal when we have that conversation and we just anoint him. And Leon Draisaitl might say, well, I'm the best player on the Edmonton Oilers right now. Like it's really interesting. They are a really good organization. They have excellent broadcasters. They have a great crowd. You go there in the playoffs. It's awesome. It's in Canada. And when you watch anybody versus the Oilers, it might be a 3-goal differential with 5 minutes left to go. You are biting your lower lip the whole time. It's never over against the Oilers. And look out if the referee decides to call a penalty. It's just not. LA obviously, like the Hiller has done a tremendous job there,
Yep.
and all of a sudden, like that, you mentioned the Pacific Division earlier.
It's good.
So Vegas is 17-3-1 since November 21st. That's number one in the league. LA is right behind them with a 778 points percentage over that stretch, and Edmonton is a 775. Like no one loses.
It's on fire.
Those three teams, and Winnipeg doesn't lose very often, and neither does Colorado. It's like the West is the East. Like I think you can pick the first 4 or 5 teams in the East and say they're in. You can pick the first 7 in the West and say they're in, and everybody else is fighting for a wild card too. It's the best teams in the West are really good.
Let me ask this closing question here, Gary. Which team, and let's not forget here, like Colorado's got goaltending now. Which team would you say scares Vegas the most? Which is the one team that keeps Vegas up at night?
I hate to be boring, but I'm going to go back to Edmonton. Like those two guys can win a series. Like they are, and you don't want to play Edmonton in the first round because they call more penalties in the first round than they do. Like you get Edmonton in the second or the third round when the referees are calling less penalties. It kind of levels the playing field in that respect. But if for some reason, if the stars align for the Oilers and McDavid and Draisaitl are fresh and healthy at the start of a playoff series, they're really, really tough out.
A couple of people in chat mentioning ruthless comments about the Edmonton Oilers as well.
Yes.
Just keeping that nickname alive, that moniker. All right, listen, I know it's busy for you. It always is. I appreciate you parking some time as always. Please say hello to our mutual friend, the great lacrosse legend, Paul Day, and we will catch up with you soon. Enjoy Knights hockey.
Yeah. As you know, I am the central scrutinizer, and I watch lots of...
Oh, Gary just made my day. Gary and I both love Frank Zapp, and that's the narrator from Joe's Garage. Oh, bless you, Gary. Just put a smile on this guy's face. Thanks, pal. You be good.
All right. Talk to you later.
Central Scrutinizer. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. How about that one, Zach? The ruthless Gary Lawless. I'll tell you, man, like right now, the team that nobody wants any piece of are the Vegas Golden Knights at all. At all.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want anything to do with them either. It's the one team that I look at every time I look at like the big bad Western Conference teams, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas. Those are teams that scare the living you know what out of me. If you're a team that's going to run into them, it's kind of the same vibe as what I get from the Panthers, but it's just big, mean hockey. It's heavy hockey, hard to play against. They can score, they can defend, they've got goaltending. Like, I just listed all the things that you need to be a good hockey team. Sorry, but like that's who they are, and it scares me.
Okay, really quickly, I want to play. Do you have the Pat Maroon clip from this morning on Morning Cup of Hockey? By the way,
from the best Morning Cup of Hockey ever. Is that what you said?
That's from producer Vic. That's not me. I didn't just totally make that up out of the blue. That's the producer said this. It's the best. It's the best. So Colby Cohen, who was supposed to be on the show today here, was also supposed to be co-hosting this morning with Johnny Lazarus, as he normally is, but he wasn't. So I spent the balance of my early morning after getting the text from Johnny Lazarus, making a BU hat. What do you think, Zach? Do you think I did a really nice job of? Because Johnny always wears Colby always wears the BU hat. Do you think that I did a good job of keeping the BU?
I was watching live, and you were like, "Oh, like by the way," and I see you like reaching down. Like, what the hell is he gonna pull? I started laughing out loud when you pulled that out. It was very good. Very,
just to remind, because because Colby likes to remind people that Boston University is a thing. That between that and I didn't. I realize. Because I've got like hockey gear, like hats and shirts and all that from every single country. I got Sweden, I got Finland, tons of Canadians. I have nothing USA. I've got nothing. There was like I wanted to put on something from like USA hockey. I have nothing. I don't know if you do, but I just realized like it's kind of embarrassing. I've got like nothing, like no USA hockey anything at all.
No, I've got Florida Panthers gear. Because one of my friends was drafted and went through there. So we got all the draft hats and everything like that.
Oh, did you?
But that's it. Yeah.
Okay, I got nothing. Anyway, so this morning on Morning Cup of Hockey, Pat Maroon. Now, Pat stops by the Morning Cup of Hockey show every week, and it's always interesting. We talked about a number of different clips. What is the clip we're going to play right now? Do you recall?
It's about Corey Perry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's about Corey Perry and Faceoffs.
So I used to giggle always to myself watching Anaheim games because I would swear that Ryan Getzlaf sometimes would deliberately lose faceoffs in the offensive zone just so Pat Maroon can go and smash someone, smash the defenseman that's going to get the puck. And so I was co-hosting with Johnny today, and I'm like, I'm just going to ask Pat Maroon this. So here's the answer he gave about Ryan Getzlaf losing faceoffs deliberately when playing with Corey Perry and Pat Maroon. This is from Morning Cup of Hockey. Please tell me that my eyes weren't lying to me and that Getzlaf was deliberately trying to lose draws in the offensive zone.
At sometimes. But if you guys notice, Perry never lines up on the wall. Have you guys ever noticed that?
No. That's not something I would even think to pick up on. Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever seen that. So, like, when I played with Pears, he would always say, "You're on the boards." But he was always, it didn't matter if he was coming off the wall or not, like as a right-hand shot. He always wanted to be in the inside and come around. Getsy would always go forward with the puck, always. So he would tell us off the face-off what he was doing, and mostly he would win it, but at some points in the game, he would drive it forward so we can go forward check and get on him and turn it over. If the puck was in the corner, like in my corner, I knew that the bump up to Getsy to the hash marks because he would come over top. But if I knew that play wasn't there, I had Perry. If I turn it over to the changing sides. So there was one play, but he always used to hit it to the wall too on his forehand side, and Perry would come around over the top, and I would pick that guy, and Perry would eventually come pick it up.
So that is Pat. I never noticed that before. Did you ever notice that about Corey Perry never lining up against the wall on faceoffs? I'm always going to look for it now.
That's so cool.
Always going to look for it now.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. I love that kind of stuff with like the hockey, like nerding out of why things happen, how it's made of stuff, and like guys thinking about those things. That's so smart, so interesting from Corey Perry.
I love it. Also, by the way, when we asked him who the most underrated player in the game was, like we didn't even finish the question, and it was Braden Point. And we showed the Kucherov point play that we played on yesterday. Okay, in the meantime, I know she has a flight to catch, so let's get to her right away. But want to park some time and talk about the PWHL's takeover tour at 19,000 at Rogers Arena yesterday in Vancouver, watching the Victoire beat the Toronto Sceptres. She is Erin Ambrose, who joins us from the airport in Vancouver on her way to Denver. Good afternoon, Erin Ambrose. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How cool was it last night in Vancouver, 19,000, which was spectacular. I want to get to the Marie-Philippe Poulin goal, which you have seen many times, I'm sure, but it still boggles our mind how she does things. First of all, how is the takeover tour been? Like, give us a snapshot. I saw you catching fish in Seattle, watching you guys, dominate Toronto last night. Give us a snap. You're on to Denver. Give us a snapshot of how it's been so far.
I think it's been a little bit crazy. Like for us, this is a long trip. We've also been fortunate enough to have carry-on only luggage for a 10-day road trip, which I don't know if you've seen our walk-in photos, but it
Oh,
makes it a
yeah.
little bit difficult for us. So
Yes.
it's been pretty interesting, but Seattle was great, great city. Really nice to come home to Vancouver to
Yeah.
play in front of those fans.
Is that
And look,
Poulin
you got a
behind you
cameo.
trying to?
That was Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell her nice
Yep.
goal.
Joining in.
Tell her nice goal.
Merrick says nice goal.
Yeah.
She said thank you. She's gonna run away now.
No, I know. She's very
Um,
shy, that one.
no, it's pretty special. I think Pooh kind of mentioned it. Like she's getting emotional with kind of the crowds that we get, and it's starting to become the norm. But I still feel like we're not quite used to it.
Well, I remember talking to you last year after the Bell Center game, right? And the ovations for the teams and the celebration of everything happening. And that ovation that number 29 got was spectacular. That was tear the roof off, like how loved she is. And I remember you and I talked about like one day this will be the norm and there won't be any, like, it won't feel special. It'll just feel like this is the way that it is. Now you feel that it's still kind of special and new. What about your teammates? Like, are they getting used to this yet?
I don't think any of us are. I think a special shout out to Jen Gardner last night, who really got to come home and play in BC for her. I know that her family had like a party bus going to the game, so that's
Yeah.
something that she had talked about before. She was ready for the best day of her life to be able to play in front of friends and family, and it's something that um, I wouldn't say disappointed in any sort of way, because obviously coming away with 3 points was huge. But
Yeah.
you said 19,000 fans, 19,000 plus, actually. I need to
Yes.
correct
I
you.
think it was 19,600, I believe, something in that range.
I don't know, something around that. It was definitely over 19,000, so it's pretty cool.
I think it's awesome. The games themselves, and you're off to Denver to face off against Minnesota. Take us through last night specifically, and everybody wants to know, like, thoughts on, because you're right there for it, that Marie-Philippe Poulin goal. Like, on all the highlights, everything, and you've seen her do so many things. Like, I've told you the story before when I saw her at her first Team Canada orientation camp. I'm standing with Craig Button and Steve Coulias, and Vincent Lecavalier comes by and says, who's that? And I say, oh, it's Marie-Philippe Poulin. I think she's like 20 years old, maybe 19 years old at that point. And she's going to be the next big star. And he watches her for a bit and he goes, that's a fucking good player. Like, greatness understands it, right? You've seen so much as her teammate for so long. What did you think of last night's goal? Like, seriously, Erin.
I, I I'm still in awe. I think that that's the thing that continuously happens with Pooh is you just you see things that happen, and it's just like I don't know how she does it, but at the same time, like, it's because she plays the game, and this is so cheesy but the right way. Like, her goal was a highlight reel goal, but let's talk about her empty net. Sorry, Air Canada. Let's talk about her empty net goal. Like,
Yeah.
she's in the right place at the right time to intercept that pass. And I don't love a lot of people shooting a puck from the other side of the red line, but with Pooh, I'll take that every time.
Your team right now, hitting a stride, clearly. I always laugh when I hear people say, oh, they're peaking too soon. Like, you're going to, like, deliberately stop winning or something. Oh, aren't you concerned you're peaking? It's the stupidest question that you hear in scrums. Are you concerned that you're peaking too soon? But this looks like a team right now that's hitting its stride. Does it feel that way for Montreal?
I think yes and no. I think we were a little bit unhappy with our ups and downs in our Boston game in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Like we came out in the first period and played fantastic, and then had a huge letdown in the second. And that's something that we're trying to figure out how to play a little bit better of 60 minutes. Because right now, like even yesterday, again, the second period was just a little bit of a lull for us. I thought the third we started to play well enough to hold on to that lead, but it's just about kind of putting it all together. I think we've got a lot of great pieces, and now it's about kind of finding a way to do it for the entirety of the game, which honestly is the hardest part about hockey, is making sure that you're doing things consistently every shift. And it's not always the easiest thing, especially when we're still trying to get a lot of our systems down. Like we've only played what, 8 games? Like
Yep.
that's what I think you kind of forget about is we we've only played 8 games, but at the same time, like we're almost a third of the way through the season. So got to find a way to figure it all out and put it all together. But at the same time, I think we're pretty happy with where we're at and want to continue to push in the right direction.
Does season 2 feel profoundly different than season 1?
I would say so. I think kind of this trip is making it feel a lot different in the sense of like, okay, we're on the road for a lengthy period of time. We
Yeah.
never really had that last year. And then like you kind of look at our January, it's a little bit of a gauntlet, to be honest. Like coming back from this trip, we've got a game and then we go to Quebec City, and then you try not to look ahead, but I'm also somebody who likes to plan and make sure that I know my schedule ahead of time, especially for Henry. He's got to know where he's going. But
That's Aaron's
I
dog,
think
by
just
the
trying
way,
to,
everybody. That's
yeah,
Aaron's
he
dog
gets
who
a shout
made
out.
his cameo not too long ago here on the program.
But I think just kind of like the actual schedule of the ins and outs of day to day kind of things as a pro, and that makes it more fun. That makes it being like a pro, and that's something we've been wanting. And I think year one was a sprint. It was figure it
Sure.
all out
Oh, yeah.
on the move, on the fly. Had a little bit more time to kind of settle in, get the right training this summer, and now it's like, okay, this is what a season actually feels like.
Okay, Erin Ambrose, here I go. Now, Erin,
Uh-oh.
I'm just a very simple country lawyer. I don't know about you big city people and what you think and how you do your manager affairs, but if I was looking at the last 2 games here, Seattle and Vancouver, I'd be saying to myself,
Mhm.
the league has talked about expansion, looking at 19,000 plus. Rogers
Thank you.
Arena, I'm looking at 12,000 plus. In Seattle, I think that you're probably going to have similar numbers in Denver as well Sunday for the Minnesota game. I'm sure the players are talking as well. I mean, thoughts on, again, no one's saying like Erin Ambrose breaking news confirming anything because nothing to confirm right now. But if Seattle, Vancouver were the next 2 expansion markets, what would you think?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think both cities, both venues have shown up and honestly provided a very professional environment for us. Like it's one thing to go out
Yeah.
there and have everybody in the stands and be super popular and have a lot of seats there or players, people in seats, but it's another thing to actually treat us like professionals and make sure that we're going to a rink and going to a venue that's ready for us. And I think that both places have done that. Um, I will say I know that there's a lot of places that have put in a good amount of work, a lot of ways to make it sustainable in those cities and those venues. And I think it's something that I have no idea what's going to happen. But I love that the possibility of the expansion is there. And I think that that's
Yeah.
something that us as professional athletes really want.
How much was the conversation? And I want to ask you personally. I know any second now you're going to get a boarding call, so I'm ready for you to bounce. But Vancouver, when we think of hockey, listen, we're going to think about 2010 and double gold, and we're going to think about the women and the cigars and the beers and the medals on the ice. I love the video of Tessa Bonhomme that she made with Julia, doing all of her poses and the glasses and the whole deal. I thought that was great. How much of a conversation was that around the team, and certainly Marie-Philippe Poulin, who was at the center of all of it. And what are your memories of that one? Like, to me, that's one of those for both the men's and the Crosby game winner on the men's side, the women and Crosby on the men's side as well. Those are moments where it's like, where were you when? What do you remember from 2010, and how much of a conversation was it around the team?
As for a conversation, it was cool. We went to the gondola and Gross Mountain, and on the drive, Pooh was like, "That's where the Olympic Village was," and that was kind of the only bit that we actually talked about that. But I think for me, like, I was in grade 10, and I had already been in the U18 program for a year, and that was something I was like, "This is what I want to get to. This is where I really want to get to." And seeing 18-year-old Marie-Philippe Poulin out there scored 2 goals. And I will say one pass that was a beautiful pass from Jennifer Botterill. Like, it's like those little things are things you don't forget. And then to be there on that stage with her 12 years later was something that I'm very thankful for. But I think the best part about Pooh is, like, think about that. That's over a decade ago.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what the stage is. She consistently plays the game and provides us opportunities to win games. I know I was talking to one of our first year players this year, and she did something in practice in Seattle. Pooh did, and I just turned to her and I go, "Anna, isn't it sick? Like, isn't it just so cool?" She goes, "Sometimes I watch her and I'm just like," because it's just little things that she does.
Yeah.
She really is the best in the world, and there will never be another Marie-Philippe Poulin.
She's great. You're great, and both of you have a plane to catch. Good luck in Denver. Have you been given any heads up about what to expect when you get there? I know the crowds. I was just texting with someone a couple of moments ago about the crowds there. It looks like it's going to be really healthy as well. Any idea what to expect when you get to Denver?
I have never been to Denver. I'm expecting a little bit of coldness. I will say I'm really excited. Other than the altitude, I'm really excited for it all. I've given a shout out to the Empty Netters guys to get them. They're in Vail this weekend, so I'm trying to convince them to come over and watch the game on Sunday. They are great guys, so I'm really trying to make sure that they can come. And honestly, I'm just excited to experience a new state, a new city, and really take it all in.
I love it. Best of luck against Minnesota. Enjoy Denver. It's a beautiful city, wonderful people. Good luck getting the Empty Netters out as well. Great guys. We will catch up soon, my friend. Safe travels.
Thank you, and sorry for all the announcements.
That's okay. The biggest announcement is Erin Ambrose is on the sheet. Thanks so much for joining us today, Erin. You're the best. Great hat, by the way. Love the hat. Love the hat.
Thank you.
And love Ambrose. So there you go, Zach. Erin Ambrose and the Montreal Victoire on their way to Denver for a game against Minnesota on Sunday as the takeover tour continues. That was a sick goal.
19,083 as well.
Oh, was it 19? I thought it was like 19,600. Okay, so 19,083. Very good. That was the that was the crowd yesterday. Like eventually this league has to go west and expand out that way. To me, you can't just have one, you have to have two. Seattle, Vancouver makes a whole lot of sense to me. Eventually, I would imagine Los Angeles is going to enter the mix here. And then meanwhile, like, we wonder about Detroit, we wonder about Pittsburgh and Fenway Sports as far as an organization. There's another Olympic cycle on the horizon. So what is that going to mean for the state of women's hockey afterwards? How many are going to still be around? How many are going to say this is my last Olympic cycle and my last shot at playing? Don't know. But it's going to be an interesting landscape, and wonder if there's going to be at least 2 more new teams on the horizon for the PWHL. By the way, and they might want to start, I was talking to someone the other day, they might want to start doing it soon, because I know a team like a country like Finland specifically, they're looking to lock, and there's a lot of great hockey players in Finland, they're looking to lock up a lot of their players, like right now. So if the PWHL is going to expand, might want to move things along here, but we shall see. We shall see. But do we have that Poulin goal? Can we do we have it?
Yeah, you want to see this?
Yeah,
I want to play the sound too, because we ought to hear the crowd. It's
okay. So I'm just gonna shut up now. Best thing I can do for the show.
Barnes will send it deep. Campbell calmly plays it over to her teammate Emma Malte. Cut off by Poulin. Poulin working in. Poulin hands off to Ambrose. And they hit traffic right in front of Rio. They score! Marie-Philippe Poulin, Captain Clutch, has done it again in Vancouver.
awesome. Gets clobbered.
That's so cool.
Gets it clobbered in the slot on her knees, fires it high. It's just a beautiful goal. Beautiful goal by a beautiful player. Before we get to games of the night this evening, anything that we're leaving on the table here that we should get to?
Yeah, the only other thing that I kind of had left was heading over to nationgear.ca, Jeff. Nationgear.ca for the upcoming Nation vacation with the Leafs Nation and the Oilers Nation. If you're looking to go to Nashville with myself, Nick Alberga, and Rosie, or if you're looking to go to Vegas with the Oilers Nation crew. I don't think you're included in these ones, Jeff.
I was going to say, when do I get to go in? I know I'm like the new guy around here. I'm essentially, glorified caretaker, but like hand me a broom at the end of the day and I'll sweep up on the way out. But like eventually I got to get involved. Everyone else is going, I'm going to Denver's Oilers vacation. I'm going to Nashville, Leafs Nation vacation. Anything for little old me over here anywhere? Can we go anywhere, Zach?
Nationgear.ca. That's where you head over to check that out. The other thing I want to throw out there quickly, one more thing. Washington Capitals, Pierre-Luc Dubois. We did not talk about that one. I just wanted to get your thoughts on. I mean, the Leafs the other day caught the Capitals. It was like amazing. We're first in the Eastern Conference, and then Washington wins again.
Washington's awesome right now. Like I keep, they're one of those teams where you're like, okay, I'm just waiting. Like I'm waiting for this to end. There was that time, 2006. I think you were probably in grade 3 or something like that.
I'm trying to think of
How old were you in 2006? I was thinking
8.
Crushing me.
I started high school in 2012.
Okay, just stop. You're barely old enough to piss straight, and I'm going on about Stanley Cup Finals and things. So 2006, Zach. You like that one, eh?
Yeah, that's good.
2006. Chat like that one? Okay, yeah. I barely don't have to piss straight. 2006, the Carolina Hurricanes ended up winning the Stanley Cup, but along the way, like everyone thought that it was fool's gold, right? Like, oh, they had a great October. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, they had a wonderful November. Oh, Carolina's still winning games. Oh, that's great. And then you roll into December and like they're still winning, and Jim Rutherford's making trades and bringing in all these veterans, and you're like, holy smokes! So like the Carolina Hurricanes, I know it was the year where everybody had to relearn how they played. There's tons of power plays and everything. I get it. It was like the goofy year, and Jonathan Cheechoo won the Rocket Richard Trophy. Like weird things happened that year, but the Carolina Hurricanes ended up winning the Stanley Cup. But along the way, everybody was waiting for the wheels to fall off the wagon because no one really believed it. Are you believing in, like, they're going to the playoffs, but are you believing in the Washington Capitals, or do you think like part of this is a mirage? Because I keep thinking that it's gonna end, and it's not. Like they look really good, and Pierre-Luc Dubois looks really good. As I mentioned off the top of the show, like this is the PLD that Winnipeg, Columbus, LA all wanted to have, and now Washington's got. I give a lot of credit to Spencer Carberry. And probably odds-on favorite to win the Coach of the Year. I know we're only halfway through the season, but that was game 41. If you're voting right now, it's going to be Spencer Carberry. I'll kind of lay a lot of it at his feet. You believing in this one, Zach? You buying this one? You picking this one up?
I am, actually. So basically what I was just going to say, like, the one thing that kind of, it's different teams, different builds, but it kind of reminded me of the situation. Remember when Florida went to the Cup final in the first year, and it was like, fraudulent team, they're lucky going on a run. Anybody going through these guys is going to have an easy go, and they went to the Cup finals. And they went back the next year, and they won. Now, mind you, Washington didn't go last year, but they got to the playoffs. Last year, I kept saying, I'm looking at it, I don't think they deserve to be here. Fraudulent team, whatever. Okay, they get bounced in the first round. Yep. Well, when you start the next season, how you finish the last, and you carry it through, Jeff, not 10, 20, 30 games, 40-plus games playing this way, I'm buying in. This is a real team. I don't think that's going to be the case.
That was the halfway mark of Washington's season last night. And Dubois, again, takes a run at Quinn Hughes in the middle of things, scoring big goals. I don't know. I thought it was an awesome game last night. Okay, speaking of games.
We got Almo in the chat, by the way, saying we got a nation vacation for you. You're going sending you to Oshawa for the nation
vacation to watch the Generals. I'll take that. Yeah. Oshawa is a freight train, man. Oshawa looks really good. Go train and motel packages available. I am
nice
in. Like I say, like a library book in my hometown, Stouffville. Like a library book, I am in. Okay. Let's get to the games. Sometimes you have to pause for a second and let like jokes sink in for Zach, but then when he gets them, like, look at, man, the giggle machine is on. It's awesome. I just love it. All right, 10 games around the go in the NHL, brought to you by FanDuel. Proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. There's a few beauties here. Buffalo, Ottawa, the Canadian Tire Center. Anton Forsberg starts. UPL starts for the Buffalo Sabres. Boston and Tampa is a fascinating one. Vasilevsky versus Swayman. I know we've had a lot of conversation this week about what's happened to the Boston Bruins and are they on their way out. Thought Andrew Raycroft on with the Coffee Boys yesterday was fantastic, breaking it all down. The return of Igor Shesterkin and the return of Matt Rempe. Tonight, do we see fireworks between the Rangers and the New Jersey Devils? We mentioned Connor versus Sydney, Edmonton and Pittsburgh at PPG, but like go all the way down. Like you're going to be a busy guy, Toronto and Carolina. Ryan Reeves is not playing tonight, by the way. Zach, he's out.
Didn't fight the other day when I thought he was going to. And it's like you got the one shot first fight.
That's Connor Dewar territory, son. That's where Connor Dewar steps up.
Yeah. Which I liked, by the way. Farabee and Dewar, they go to the box. They both give each other props. They interviewed Farabee after. And he's like,
he asked for it.
Building was quiet. He asked him. He said, "Yep, great guy." That's what he said. Great guy.
Awesome, right? Just like
so
there's
cool.
there's like dumb, and then there's hockey dumb. Building was quiet. Throw knuckles at each other's skulls. Okay, Seattle and Columbus. You know my feelings on Columbus and how we're. I think a lot of people are cheering for Columbus. A lot of it for emotional reasons, but also because like it's been a long time and you want Columbus to turn things around. Really interesting situation here. I'm not sure if this has been cleared up yet. Mike Russo tweeting this one out a while ago. So Colorado's facing off against Minnesota. Philip Gustafsson starts for the Minnesota Wild. But we mentioned Dylan Ferguson on the morning show today with Ben Boudreau. Boudreau had him in Fort Wayne. Dylan Ferguson recently signed. He's injured. Marc-Andre Fleury is sick. Jesper Wallstedt is hurt. And Samuel Hlavich makes too much money to be called up and put in the lineup. Are we looking at an e-bug backup?
I did see that
for
tweet.
Philip
I didn't even
Gustafsson?
get my brain to the e-bug. Wow.
Are we going like e-bug backup here? Is that where we're at, Zach? This one's going to be fascinating. I'll be fascinated to watch this one, Colorado and Minnesota.
Yeah.
Brodin and Faber out. By the way, speaking of goaltenders, Brodin and Faber are both out tonight.
Oh my God. Okay.
I know.
Well,
and
this
then
is
the
gonna
Island,
be one I was already going to watch.
the Island
must
is,
see.
and your nightcap, your Vegas Golden Knights, the juggernaut, the ruthless Vegas Golden Knights facing off against the New York Islanders. Any of these? I mean, I know you're going to be working. You've got your show after the Toronto Carolina game, but anything else? You got your eyeballs on here. There's some good ones tonight. New Jersey, New York is always good because it's always just
and also I was just going to
charged.
say, by the way, Daily Faceoff tweeted out. Guess who draws back in the lineup for the New Jersey Devils in the return of Matt Rempe? That would be Curtis McDermott.
Does his name rhyme with Curtis McDermott?
Sorry, I said.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll say this. I know where we're all at on fighting and concussions and CTE, and these are all very, very, very serious things. I grew up in an era where part of the attraction sometimes for hockey games was that you knew two guys were going to throw down. Right? Like you knew that Bob Probert was going to fight Troy Crowder, or Ty Domi was going to fight Donald Brashear, or Basil McRae was going to fight everybody. And whenever Philadelphia came to town, everyone was going to try not to fight Dave Brown, but some poor sucker was going to draw the Dave Brown card. Like that's gone. Okay? It's a lot safer now. It's not like hockey still has its share of dumb, but it's not like that dumb anymore. But every now and then, you just kind of know that it's going to happen.
I know.
And you wonder about New Jersey and New York tonight. With this one.
And everyone's going to want to watch.
I know. No one is going for refreshments. No one is turning the channel. Not that that's the be-all and end-all justification for fighting in the NHL, but I just like there's something... I don't know. Maybe I'm 98% chimp like we all are. We still got chimp DNA in all of us. There's still something attractive about going to a game and knowing that these two guys are going to do it.
Yep.
Anyhow.
100%.
Okay, on that we'll wrap. Anything else from you before we wrap up the show here? We're good?
No, that's it for me. Yep.
You don't want to hear any more bad lines out of me? Cheap insults? No, none of it?
If you've got one, throw it
Nah,
at me.
I got a lot.
We're good.
We got a lot of shows to do still here, bud. We got a lot of shows. Oh, Pablo in the chat, Ty Domi and Rob Ray. Oh, that was a given. Every time Buffalo and Toronto got together, that one was happening. Tony Twist versus Bob Probert. Nick Davis submits. That was a hot ticket back in the day. Let's just go through a couple of Andrew Peters versus Ray Emery. Oh, man. I'll tell you, man. Ray Emery, you'll like this one, Mr. YouTube Hockey Fights. Look up Ray Emery versus Josh Gratton. It's a doozy. And Josh was like legit. It's like serious, like heavyweight tough guy. And that was a good one. And God rest his soul. Yeah, Ray Emery was he was a tough, one of the best, one of the toughest goalie fighters of all time. Although, you know who may have been the toughest? Sean Burke. Sean Burke was kind of king of the jungle when he played. Anyhow, okay. I want to thank all of our guests. I want to thank the ruthless Gary Lawless. I want to thank the excellent Erin Ambrose. We should mention as well, PWHL Defender of the Year for the Montreal Victoire, facing off against Minnesota on Sunday at Ball Arena in Denver. On behalf of Zach and everybody here at the program, thanks so much for stopping by today. The sheet returns tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. 10 games on the go around the NHL. We're back to discuss them tomorrow. Enjoy your day. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.